In a quiet village nestled between rolling hills and emerald fields, there lived an old farmer named Arun. His hands bore the marks of decades spent tending to the earth, and his eyes held the wisdom of seasons both bountiful and barren. Arun's farm was modest, a patchwork of rice paddies, vegetable gardens, and a small orchard of mango trees. Yet it was not the size of his land that made him respected among villagers, but the stories he shared and the lessons he taught. Every morning, as the sun painted gold across the fields, Arun would rise before dawn and begin his day with care and patience. He believed that the land responded to kindness, that seeds grew strong with gentle attention, and that every plant had its own rhythm, its own destiny. He would often be found crouching in the earth, talking softly to his crops, urging them to reach for the sky. One year, the monsoon failed. The clouds hovered in the distance, promising rain that never came. Day after day, the sun blazed down, scorching the soil and withering the tender shoots. The villagers grew anxious. Their wells dried, their hopes faltered. Arun's fields, too, suffered. The rice turned brown, the mangoes fell before ripening, and the vegetables drooped, desperate for water. The villagers gathered in the shade of the banyan tree, voices heavy with worry. Some spoke of leaving the village to find work elsewhere. Others considered selling their land. Arun listened, his weathered face calm but thoughtful. When asked what he would do, he replied, "I will wait. I will not lose hope. The land has been good to me for many years. I must trust that it will recover." Days stretched into weeks, and the drought deepened. Arun worked tirelessly, carrying water from distant wells, rationing every drop. He shaded his crops with old cloth, mulched the soil with leaves to keep it cool, and tended each plant as if it were his own child. His neighbors watched him, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others quietly admiring his resolve. One evening, as the sky glowed with the promise of dusk, Arun's grandson, Rohan, approached him. Rohan was young, restless, and filled with questions. He asked, "Grandfather, why do you keep working so hard when the rain won't come? Why don't you give up like the others?" Arun smiled, his eyes twinkling with gentle amusement. He placed a hand on Rohan's shoulder and said, "Let me tell you a story, my boy. When I was your age, I faced a drought much worse than this. The fields cracked open and our crops died. My father, your great-grandfather, was a stubborn man. He refused to leave. Instead, he planted seeds in the dust, believing that when the rain finally came, they would be ready to grow." Rohan frowned, unsure if he believed such a tale. "Did the rain come, grandfather?"
Arun nodded. It did. It took months of waiting. But when the clouds finally burst, those seeds sprouted faster and stronger than any we had planted before. Our patience was rewarded. My father taught me that hope is like a seed. You must plant it even when the ground is dry, and nurture it with faith.
The boy considered his grandfather's words and watched as Arun returned to his work, moving slowly but steadily across the parched earth. Inspired, Rohan began helping, carrying water and sheltering young plants. Other villagers noticed and, little by little, joined in. Hope, it seemed, was contagious. Then, one night, the wind shifted. The air grew heavy and cool, and distant thunder rumbled across the hills. In the morning, dark clouds gathered overhead. The villagers gathered outside, hearts pounding with anticipation. Suddenly, rain poured down, first in gentle drops, then in torrents that danced across the fields. The land drank deeply, and the crops, thought lost, began to revive. Arun stood in his fields, arms wide, face lifted to the sky. He watched as the rice turned green again, the mango trees blossomed, and the vegetables perked up, eager for life. The villagers rejoiced, their laughter carrying across the valley. The drought had tested them all, but Arun's unwavering hope had carried them through. Days passed, and the harvest came. It was not the largest the village had ever seen, but it was the most cherished. Every grain of rice, every ripe mango, every vegetable was a symbol, not just of survival, but of resilience. The villagers gathered to celebrate, and Aaron addressed them beneath the banyan tree.
He spoke slowly, his voice steady and warm. There will always be times when life seems dry and barren, when difficulties pile up and hope seems lost. But just as the land waits for rain, so must we wait for better days, tending to what we have, believing in what we cannot see. Hope is not passive, it is an act of courage. It is the decision to keep going, to nurture life even when the odds are against us.
He looked at Rohan, who stood proudly beside him, and continued, "We may not control the weather, but we can control our response. If we give up, we lose everything. If we persist, even in the hardest times, we create the chance for a new beginning." The villagers listened, their hearts swelling with gratitude. Arun's lesson was more than a story. It was a way of life. In the years that followed, whenever hardship struck, they remembered the old farmer's words. They worked together, supported one another, and held on to hope, knowing that patience and perseverance could weather any storm. And so, the village thrived. Arun grew older, his steps slower, but his spirit unwavering. He spent his days teaching children how to care for the land, how to honor the cycle of growth and renewal, and most importantly, how to plant the seeds of hope in their own hearts. The greatest lesson the farmer ever taught was not about crops or rains, but about the quiet strength that comes from believing in tomorrow, even when today seems impossible. His story lived on, whispered among the fields and echoed in the laughter of children, a legacy of hope that would never fade. No matter how tough the times, no matter how long the waiting, never lose hope. Like the farmer tending his fields, nurture your dreams and believe in the possibility of renewal. For in every heart that refuses to give up, the seeds of a brighter future are sown.